The kitchen clock ticked too loudly that evening. Maybe it was because the house was too quiet to empty, except for the sharp inhale of my teenage daughter, Emma, standing across from me, her fists clenched at her sides. We had been arguing about something small. At least, it had started small. Homework, her messy room, the way she slammed doors when she didn't get her way. Typical mother-daughter friction, I told myself. I should have just walked away. But the fight escalated like dry leaves catching fire. Her face was red with fury, her voice breaking as she spat out the words, "I wish you were never born." Silence. For a moment, the words didn't register. They hung in the air, suspended, almost too sharp to touch. My chest tightened, my ears buzzed, and I forgot how to breathe. Not "I hate you." Not "you don't understand me." This was deeper. This was a rejection of my very existence. I leaned against the counter, trying to steady myself, but the tiles beneath me seemed to shift. I stared at her, my own daughter, the child I had carried, nursed, sang to sleep when nightmares woke her, the child whose scraped knees I kissed, whose birthday cakes I baked, whose tears I wiped. And yet, here she was, wishing me erased. "Emma," I whispered, my voice trembling. "What did you just say?" Her eyes were shining with unshed tears, but her chin lifted stubbornly. "You heard me." I wanted to scold her, to remind her of respect, to tell her how much those words hurt. But my throat closed, and nothing came out. Instead, she turned and stormed up the stairs, each footstep like a hammer pounding against my heart. The slam of her bedroom door was final. I was alone in the kitchen, staring at the half-cooked dinner on the stove. The smell of garlic and onions lingered, mingling with the bitter sting of rejection. I sank into a chair, pressing my palms to my face. The tears came hot and fast, uncontrollable. How could she say that? My own daughter, my flesh, my blood, the reason I survived the darkest years of my life. And yet, in that moment, she wished I had never existed. I thought back to the day Emma was born, the sterile smell of the hospital, the overwhelming rush of love when I first held her tiny body against mine. Her cry was the sweetest sound I had ever heard. She was perfect 10 fingers, 10 toes, a tuft of black hair sticking up like a crown. I had whispered then, through tears, "I will always protect you. I will always be here." And for 14 years, I tried. I gave up dreams, jobs, friends. I worked long hours to keep a roof over our heads. I sacrificed pieces of myself so she would never feel unloved, unwanted. So how did we end up here? I sat there, staring at the flickering light above the dining table, my mind racing. Maybe it was my fault. Maybe I was too strict. Maybe I didn't listen enough. Maybe I had become the enemy without realizing it. The clock ticked again, louder, mocking me. 9 minutes had passed since she stormed upstairs. 9 minutes that felt like a lifetime. I wanted to run up, knock on her door, and demand she take it back. But a heavier part of me was afraid. Afraid she would repeat it. Afraid she meant it. So instead, I sat, alone, drowning in the echo of her voice. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it again. Her voice, raw with anger. "I wish you were never born." I stared at the ceiling, wondering what kind of mother I was. Mothers were supposed to be loved. At least, that's what I believed. Had I failed so badly that my daughter now hated me? By morning, my eyes were swollen and my body felt like stone. I dragged myself to the kitchen, made coffee, and waited for Emma to come downstairs for school. She came down eventually, earbuds in, backpack slung carelessly over one shoulder. She didn't meet my eyes. "Breakfast?" I asked softly, trying to sound normal. She shook her head. Not hungry, her tone was flat, but not cruel. Almost indifferent. That stung more than the words from last night. At least then, she had felt something. Now, it was as if I didn't exist at all. Emma, I began carefully as she froze. One foot already out the door. I need to know if you meant what you said last night. For a brief second, I thought I saw guilt flash across her face, but it was gone as quickly as it came. She shrugged. Whatever. And with that, she left that the door clicked shut, and I felt myself crumble again. The rest of the day passed in a haze. Work emails went unanswered. The laundry sat in the basket. I scrolled through old photos on my phone instead. Emma at age 3, grinning with ice cream smeared across her face. Emma at age 7, holding up her first school trophy. Emma at 10, arms wrapped tightly around me after a scary thunderstorm. She had loved me once, hadn't she? Or maybe I had imagined it. Maybe she only needed me. And now that she was old enough, she didn't. The thought was unbearable. That evening, I sat outside her bedroom door, listening to faint music playing from inside. I wanted to knock, to ask her why, to tell her how much she had hurt me, but I didn't. I sat there quietly, back against the wall, staring at the framed family photo hanging in the hallway. We looked happy in its smiles, arms around each other, but photos lay inside her room. She was a stranger to me now, and I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe I was a stranger to her too. That was the night I decided to write everything down. If my daughter wished I was never born, maybe the only way I could survive that truth was to tell my side of the story, to trace back where things went wrong, to understand her anger, her pain, her rejection. So I opened a blank notebook, picked up a pen, and wrote at the top, "The day my daughter wished me erased." I didn't know then that writing would uncover more than I expected. That behind her cruel words were secrets, wounds, and truths neither of us had dared to face. But that night, all I had was a pen, a notebook, and a heart full of broken pieces, and the echo of a daughter's voice that would not leave me. I used to believe love was enough. That if I loved Emma with every breath in my body, if I gave her everything I could, she would never doubt me, never push me away, never tell me she wished I'd never been born. But maybe love alone isn't enough. Maybe it never was. I was 19 when I found out I was pregnant. The test strip turned pink in my trembling hands, and my whole world collapsed. I was just a college freshman then, naive, clinging to dreams of traveling the world, becoming a writer, living in a city where no one knew my name. Instead, I was a scared girl in a bathroom stall, staring at 2 lines that would define the rest of my life. Emma's father, Mark, didn't take the news well. He wasn't cruel, just absent. He faded slowly, like a ghost slipping through my fingers. By the time I hit my 3rd trimester, he had vanished completely. No goodbye, no fight, just gone. I remember standing in front of the mirror, rubbing my swollen belly, whispering, "It's okay, baby. You've got me." And she did. She had me through the morning sickness, the sleepless nights, the aching loneliness. She had me when I walked across that graduation stage, belly round under my gown. She had me when I worked double shifts at the diner, when my hands cracked from scrubbing dishes, when exhaustion made my bones ache. Every choice I made after that was for her. When other girls my age went backpacking across Europe, I was budgeting diapers. When they dated freely, I was making school lunches. When they laughed at parties, I was reading bedtime stories in a small, dim apartment with peeling wallpaper. It wasn't easy, but Emma's smile made it worth it. She was my anchor, my reason, my pride. So when she told me she wished I'd never been born, it felt like she had ripped the ground from beneath me. Looking back now, Maybe the cracks had always been there. Emma was an easy child, in some ways bright, curious, affectionate, but she was also sensitive, prone to mood swings, easily wounded. When she was 6, I remember her coming home from school in tears because another girl hadn't invited her to a birthday party. I held her in my lap for hours, whispering that she was special, that she was enough. But as she grew older, my reassurances stopped being enough. She needed space, independence, freedom to make her own mistakes, and I didn't know how to let go. I hovered. I checked her homework twice. I tracked her location on my phone. I corrected her posture, her tone, her friends. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I was terrified of losing her. I had already lost so much: my youth, my dreams. Mark, Emma was all I had left. But love mixed with fear can look like control. I see that now. One memory haunts me. Emma was 12. She had begged me for weeks to let her go to the mall with her friends alone. Just a few hours, she pleaded. Everyone else's moms let them. I said no. Too dangerous. Too many risks. She had exploded then, tears streaming down her face. You don't trust me. You don't let me do anything. I had shouted back, louder than I meant, because I'm the only parent you have left, Emma. If something happens to you, I have nothing. Do you understand? Nothing. The silence afterward was sharp. She had stared at me, wide-eyed, then run to her room. I told myself I was protecting her, but what she heard was a chain, not love. And maybe she started to resent me then. The teenage years only widened the gap. She rolled her eyes at my questions. She stopped sharing little secrets. Her hugs became fewer, shorter. Still, I tried. I cooked her favorite meals, asked about her day, offered advice she didn't want. I watched her from the sidelines, aching for the closeness we once had. But the harder I reached, the further she pulled away. Until finally, last night, she didn't just pull away. She erased me. I wish you were never born. I had thought the cracks were repairable, normal. Every mother-daughter bond had rough patches, didn't it? But those words told me something different. They told me the cracks had widened into a canyon I could no longer cross. After work today, I stopped by the park where Emma used to play when she was little. The swings creaked in the evening breeze, and I could almost see her there again, tiny legs pumping, hair flying, laughter ringing out. She used to shout, "Higher, Mommy." Push me higher, and I always did. I pushed her as high as I could, my hands steadying her. My heart swelling with joy. Now she doesn't want my hands on her at all. I sat on a bench, staring at the empty playground, wondering where I went wrong. Was it the hovering? The overprotection? Was it the absence of a father? The gap I could never fill? Or was it simply that she was growing up, and I couldn't let her? The truth is, I don't know. All I know is that I feel like I'm losing her, and I don't know how to stop it. That night, after she went to bed, I picked up my notebook again. The first page still read, "The day my daughter wished me erased." On the second page, I began to write my memories. The good, the bad, the sacrifices, the mistakes, not because I thought she would read them. She probably wouldn't. But because I needed to remember who we were before last night. I wrote about her first steps when she toddled into my arms and giggled with triumph. I wrote about the nights we built blanket forts, reading stories until we both fell asleep. I wrote about the mornings she curled into my bed after nightmares, whispering, "Don't let go." I wrote until my hand cramped, tears blurring the ink, because somewhere along the way, I had let go even if I hadn't realized it. And now, I was terrified she might never come back. Still, as I closed the notebook, a quiet thought crept into my mind. Maybe her words weren't really about me at all. Maybe they were about her anger, her confusion, her pain. Maybe she didn't wish I had never been born. Maybe she wished she had been born into a different life, one with less pressure, less sacrifice, less weight of a mother who clung too tightly. If that was true, then the wound cut even deeper, because I couldn't change the past. I couldn't give her a different childhood. I couldn't give her a father who stayed. All I could give her was me, and right now, she didn't want me, as I turned off the light and climbed into bed. Her words echoed again, softer this time, but still sharp. I wish you were never born. I pressed a hand to my chest. Over the steady beat of my heart, I was born. I existed. And because of that, so did she. Maybe one day she would understand. Maybe one day she would forgive. But tonight, all I had was silence and the weight of a love that sometimes felt like a burden she didn't ask for. People think teenagers are cruel. They look at us rolling our eyes, slamming doors, muttering sharp words under our breath, and they think it's all attitude. They think we enjoy being mean. But the truth is, most of us don't want to hurt anyone. We just don't know how to say what's really hurting us. When I told my mom I wished she was never born, I didn't mean it. Not the way it sounded. But in that moment, it was the only weapon I had. The only way to make her feel a piece of what I was feeling inside. I regret it now. But at the time, I meant every syllable. I'm Emma, 14. Freshman year. My life feels like it's cracking in a million places. And I'm holding it together with tape that keeps peeling off. I walk through school hallways like a ghost. Not invisible. Exactly, people see me. They just don't see me. I'm not popular enough to be noticed. Not athletic enough to be praised. Not artsy enough to be admired. I drift between groups, fitting in nowhere, belonging to no one. Sometimes I try to laugh at the right jokes, wear the right clothes, say the right things. But it always feels like I'm playing a part in a play that everyone else has memorized. And I don't know the lines. And the worst part, I can't even tell my mom, because she wouldn't get it. She thinks school is simple: do your work, stay out of trouble, and you'll be fine. But it's not fine. It's drowning. It's constant pressure to be something you're not. It's watching other kids get hugged at pickup by dads who show up in suits, smiling like they own the world, while I walk home alone. Yeah. Dad, or should I say Mark? I don't know much about him, just that he left before I was born, and Mom doesn't talk about him. At least, not the way I want her to. If I ask questions, her face hardens, like she's holding back tears or fury. I can't tell which. So I stopped asking. But sometimes, late at night, I scroll through Facebook and find his profile. He doesn't know I follow him. He has another family now, 2 little kids, smiling in matching pajamas at Christmas. His arm around their mom. I stare at those photos until my chest aches, wondering why I wasn't enough to stay for. What did I do wrong before I even existed? Mom doesn't know I do this. She doesn't know a lot about me anymore. She thinks I'm angry because I'm a teenager. She thinks slamming doors is just hormones. But it's more than that. It's like carrying a storm inside my chest, and no matter how much I scream into a pillow, it doesn't go away. And Mom, she loves me. I know she does. But her love is heavy, smothering. Like a blanket pressed against my face, she tracks my phone. She checks my homework twice. She asks who I'm texting, where I'm going, who I'm with. If I don't answer fast enough, she asks again, sharper. It's like she doesn't trust me to breathe without supervision. I get it. She raised me alone. She's scared. She's all I have, and I'm all she has. But sometimes, that feels less like love and more like chains. There's another thing no one talks about: the debt. Everywhere we go, People remind me how much mom gave up for me. She sacrificed everything. She's so strong. You're lucky to have her. Lucky. That word stings. Because it makes me feel like I owe her for existing. Like I should be grateful every second of my life. Like I should repay her by being perfect. But I'm not perfect. I can't be Dot, and every time she sighs at my messy room. Every time she says I'm distracted or careless. Every time she reminds me of how hard she works, it feels like proof that I'm failing at being enough to justify her sacrifices. I never asked to be born. And yet, here I am, living in the shadow of what she lost because of me. No one says it out loud. But I feel it. And maybe that's why I exploded that night. It started with something stupid: dishes, I think, or homework, or the way I left my shoes in the hallway. I don't even remember anymore. But she started lecturing, her voice sharp, words piling on top of each other. And all the things I'd been holding in, the loneliness, the suffocation, the guilt boiled over. You don't get it, I shouted. You never get it, she shouted back. I felt cornered, like a wild animal trapped with no way out. And then the words ripped out of me before I could stop them. I wish you were never born. The silence afterward was worse than the shouting. Her face crumpled like paper. Her eyes looked like I'd stabbed her. She leaned against the counter like the air had been sucked out of the room. For a second, I thought she might slap me, or scream, or throw something. But she didn't. She just whispered, "What did you say?" And I repeated it, because I couldn't take it back. Because if I did, the dam would break, and I'd have to admit what I really meant. I feel like I ruined your life. I feel like I don't belong anywhere. I feel like I'm drowning, and you can't see me. I hate myself. But I couldn't say any of that. So instead, I picked the cruelest words I could think of, and I threw them like knives. And then I ran upstairs and slammed the door. Now, lying in bed days later, I hear her through the wall sometimes. Soft sobs, muffled so I won't notice. She thinks I can't hear, but I do. And every time I do, my chest aches with guilt. I don't hate her. I never did. I hate that I can't explain myself. I hate that I don't know how to make her understand without hurting her. I hate that I'm breaking the one person who's always been there for me. And maybe, just maybe, I hate myself most of all because words can't be unsaid, and I don't know if she'll ever look at me the same way again. Sometimes I wish I could go back to being little, back when things were simpler, when she built blanket forts with me and read stories until I fell asleep, when I'd curl into her bed after nightmares and whisper, "Don't let go." She never did let go. Not then. But now, I'm the one letting go. And I don't know how to stop. Maybe someday I'll tell her the truth. That I don't really wish she was never born. That what I meant was, sometimes I wish I wasn't. But for now, all I can do is hide under the covers, bite my lip until it bleeds, and hope she doesn't stop loving me even if I don't deserve it. 2 nights after those words, I couldn't take the silence anymore. Emma barely looked at me, and when she did, her eyes slid away like I wasn't even there. She ate dinner in silence, retreated upstairs, closed her door. It was worse than the shouting, worse than the words themselves. It was as if she had erased me, and I couldn't live like that. So that night, after pacing the hallway until my legs ached, I knocked on her door. "Emma." My voice trembled. "Can we talk?" For a long time, there was nothing, just the faint thrum of music from her speaker. Then, finally, "Fine." I pushed the door open. Her room was dim, the glow of her phone lighting her face. She was curled on her bed, arms crossed, expression unreadable. I sat on the edge of her desk chair, my heart racing. "Emma," I whispered, "you hurt me, more than I can explain. But I need to understand why. Why did you say that to me? She rolled her eyes, but I saw the flicker of pain behind them. You wouldn't get it. Try me, I said. My voice was firmer this time, though my hands shook. For a moment, she didn't speak. She picked at the frayed edge of her blanket, avoiding my gaze. Then, all at once, her voice cracked open. You make me feel like I'm a debt, Mom, like I owe you for existing. The words hit me harder than a slap. What? No. Yes. She snapped, her eyes brimming with tears. That's what it feels like. Everyone says how much you sacrificed, how amazing you are for raising me alone, how you gave up everything. Do you know what it's like to sit there and hear that? It feels like I ruined your life before I was even born. My chest tightened. Emma, you didn't ruin my life. You saved it. She shook her head fiercely. Then why do I feel like I'm trapped in it? You don't trust me. You don't let me breathe. You say it's love, but it feels like chains. Her words poured out in a rush. Years of silence breaking open. You check my phone. You follow me on apps. You want to know where I am every second. I can't make one mistake without you acting like the world will end. I blinked back tears. Because I'm scared. Because you're all I have, Emma. I can't lose you. Her face twisted, a mix of anger and grief. And I'm not just yours to lose. The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. I saw her then not as my little girl, not as my burden, but as a person standing on the edge of her own life, desperate for air. And I realized something I hadn't before. I was loving her for me, not for her. I had been holding on so tightly because I was afraid of disappearing Dot, but in doing so, I was pushing her away. I swallowed hard. Emma, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to let you grow without feeling like I'm falling apart. But I want to try, please. Help me try. Her lip trembled, and for the first time, her voice was small. I don't hate you, Mom. Tears blurred my vision. I know, but I needed to hear you say it. She shifted, hugging her knees. Her voice cracked again. Sometimes, I hate myself. My breath caught. What? I look at Dad's pictures online, she whispered. He has another family. Kids who look so happy. And I think, why wasn't I enough? Why didn't he stay for me? And then I think, maybe I'm just not worth staying for. Not even for you. I moved without thinking, kneeling beside her bed, taking her shaking hands in mine. Emma, listen to me, I said, my voice breaking. You are worth everything. Your dad leaving had nothing to do with you. Nothing. That was his weakness, not yours. She wiped at her eyes angrily. Then why do I feel so broken? Because you're carrying pain you don't deserve, I whispered, and I didn't see it. I was so busy trying to protect you that I forgot to see you. For the first time in what felt like forever, she let me hold her. Her head dropped against my shoulder, her body shaking with sobs, and I held on, not to control, not to cling, but to let her know she wasn't alone. We stayed like that for a long time, the storm between us quieting into silence. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were red, but softer. I'm sorry, she whispered, for what I said. I didn't mean it. I wanted you to feel what I feel, like you didn't matter, because that's how I feel most of the time. My heart cracked, but I managed a shaky smile. Emma, you matter more than you'll ever know, and I don't ever want you to feel like you don't. She nodded, but I could tell she wasn't fully convinced. Healing wouldn't happen overnight, but for the first time, we were speaking the truth. Later that night, as I lay in bed, her words echoed in my mind. I'm not just yours to lose. She was right. She wasn't. She was her own person. And I had to learn how to love her without holding her hostage. I picked up my notebook and wrote, maybe loving someone means learning how to let go. Just enough to let them breathe, but not enough to let them fall. And I hoped, with everything in me, that it wasn't too late to try. It had been 3 months since the night Emma and I finally broke open. 3 months since she confessed that sometimes she hated herself. 3 months since I admitted that I was holding on too tightly. 3 months since the words that almost destroyed us became the words that started to stitch us back together. And in those 3 months, we had begun slowly, awkwardly, painfully to heal. It wasn't magic. She still slammed her door sometimes. I still worried too much. We still had arguments that ended in tears or silence. But something had shifted. We weren't pretending anymore. We weren't circling each other like strangers. We were learning how to speak without turning away. One Saturday morning, I knocked on her door not because I wanted to check on her, not because I wanted to make sure she wasn't scrolling through endless screens, but because I wanted to ask her something. Emma, a muffled yeah, drifted back. I opened the door. She was sprawled on her bed, earphones in, doodling in her sketchbook. I was thinking, maybe we could do something together today. She arched an eyebrow. Like what? Mother-daughter therapy session? Her tone was teasing, but not cruel. Actually, I said, holding up my phone. I saw there's an art exhibit downtown. I thought maybe you'd like to go. Her face softened just slightly. You'd actually go to that? I smiled. For you. Yes. I want to see the world the way you see it. For a second, she looked at me like she didn't believe it. Then, quietly, she said, okay. We went. The gallery was small. Sunlight spilling across canvases bursting with color. Emma walked ahead of me, her eyes alive, her sketchbook clutched against her chest. I watched her, really watched her. The way she tilted her head when she studied a piece. The way she whispered her thoughts under her breath, not for me, but for herself. And I realized she wasn't just my daughter. She was an artist, a thinker, a person building a world that had nothing to do with me. And instead of fearing it, I felt proud. Later, as we sat in a cafe sipping hot chocolate, she surprised me. You actually didn't embarrass me today, she said with a smirk. High praise, I said, laughing. Her smile faded, though, and she traced the rim of her mug. I'm trying, Mom. I really am. I don't want to hurt you. Tears prickled at my eyes. I know, and I'm trying to. I don't want to cage you. I need to learn how to trust that you'll find your way. She glanced at me, her eyes softer than they had been in months. Maybe we can figure it out together. Therapy helped to at first. Emma resisted. I don't need a stranger poking around in my head, she muttered when I suggested it. But after one particularly bad night, her sobs muffled through her bedroom wall. She agreed. The first sessions were rocky. She barely spoke, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the carpet. But over time, she started to open, and so did I. I admitted to the therapist, in front of Emma, that I was terrified of being alone, that I had built my whole identity around being her mother, and when she pulled away, I felt like I ceased to exist. Emma cried hearing that. I don't want you to disappear, Mom. I just need you to be more than just my mom. It was hard, brutally hard, but it was real. And for the first time, we were facing our pain together. One evening, months later, I found Emma sitting at the kitchen table, her sketchbook open. She slid a page toward me. It was a drawing of two figures, one older, one younger, standing on opposite cliffs, a shaky bridge connecting them. That's us, she said softly, but the bridge is holding. My throat tightened. Emma, it's beautiful. She shrugged, but her eyes shimmered. I don't want the bridge to break. It won't, I promised. Not as long as we keep walking toward each other. I wish I could say everything was fixed, that we never fought again, that the pain vanished overnight. But life doesn't work that way. There were still nights she slammed her door, still days I worried too much, still moments where we both stumbled back into old habits. But there was also laughter again, inside jokes over breakfast, long drives where she controlled the playlist, small, fragile apologies that came quicker than before. And most importantly, there was hope. One night, as I tucked myself into bed, Emma knocked on my door. "Mom?" I sat up, surprised. "Yeah." She hesitated in the doorway, her hair messy, her face softer than I'd seen in years. "I'm glad you were born." The words hung in the air, undoing months of silence. Stitching over the wound she had once cut open, tears filled my eyes. So am I, Emma. She smiled small, shy, but real. And then she turned and padded back to her room. I lay awake for a long time that night, her words echoing like a bomb over every scar. Maybe healing wasn't about erasing the past. Maybe it was about learning how to live with it, to carry it together without letting it crush us. And maybe, just maybe, my daughter and I had finally found the beginning of that healing.